Indonesia has dismissed China's invitation to sit down for a dialogue to manage disputes over Indonesia's exclusive economic zones (EEZ) in the North Natuna Sea in the Riau Islands province, arguing that there are no overlapping claims there, a message Indonesia has sent consistently since 2016. Following revelations of a wave of illicit activity by Chinese Coast Guard and fishing vessels in Natuna waters last week, Indonesia summoned Chinese ambassador to Indonesia Xiao Qian on Monday to lodge a formal protest. The foreign ministry said Indonesia would never recognize China's 9-line, the geographic expression of Beijing's sweeping claims over the South China Sea, because it was contrary to international law. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhang Shuang insisted on Tuesday that the ships were performing routine activities to maintain maritime order and protect China's legitimate rights and interests in the relevant waters. Using what the spokesman claimed were historical rights in the South China Sea, China maintained it was simply asserting its sovereignty over the Spratly Islands as well as its sovereign rights and jurisdiction over relevant waters nearby. Chinese fishermen have long been engaging in fishery activities in relevant waters near the Nansha Islands, he said in a statement quoted on the ministry's website, in reference to the Chinese name for the Spratly Islands. China would like to work with Indonesia to continue managing disputes properly through bilateral dialogue, and to maintain friendly cooperation as well as peace and stability in the South China Sea, he added. Indonesia responded Wednesday by firmly rejecting the asserted historical claims. The ministry said they were unilateral, have no legal basis and have never been recognized by the 1982 UNCLOS, United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Beijing's claims were invalidated by an international tribunal in 2016 brought forth by the Philippines, one of the few claimants in the South China Sea territorial dispute. Jakarta also rejected the term relevant waters because it was meaningless and incompatible with UNCLOS. Based on UNCLOS, Indonesia has no overlapping claims with China, and so it is of the opinion that there is no relevance in initiating any dialogue on maritime delimitation, the ministry said. The posturing harks back to a previous altercation between Indonesia and China in 2016, when Chinese Coast Guard vessels prevented the seizure of 2 Chinese fishing boats illegally poaching in Indonesian waters. The standoff famously led to President Joko Widodo's decision to hold a limited cabinet meeting on board an Indonesian naval warship in the waters surrounding Natuna, where the body of water was renamed the North Natuna Sea. Experts said Joko's move was Indonesia's way of doubling down on its commitment to protect its sovereignty and implied that it was not interested in entertaining any attempts by China to provoke it. Unfortunately for Jakarta, that mindset goes both ways. International law expert Hikmahanto Juwana from the University of Indonesia said that nothing would come out of threatening China for its illicit activities, no matter how many diplomatic notes of protest Indonesia sent. That's because the Chinese do not acknowledge Indonesia's EEZ in Natuna. For them, it is a traditional fishing ground for their fishermen, Hikmahanto said in a statement on Tuesday. He suggested Indonesia go beyond protests and immediately increase the presence of Indonesian maritime authorities, including the Marine and Fisheries Ministry, the Indonesian Navy and the Maritime Security Agency, Bakamla, in Indonesia's waters. Hikmahanto said the state must assert its presence in Natuna because, in international law, a claim cannot be justified merely by protest but rather by exercising rights and seizing effective control over the territory. Effective control in the form of physical presence on the ground is important, especially since Indonesia lost to Malaysia on the Sipadan and Ligitan Islands case in the International Court of Justice, he said in reference to a high-profile case that had discouraged the government from settling its border disputes through arbitration. Government officials have said that the relevant agencies are in close coordination to secure Indonesia's EEZ rights, while local governments are also working to encourage more fishing activities in Natuna waters. Charles Honoris, a member of the House of Representatives Defense and Foreign Affairs Commission, welcomed Indonesia's firm stance but said the government might opt for even tougher responses if China failed to show good faith in respecting Indonesia's sovereignty. The government can review Indonesia's participation in China's multilateral initiatives, such as the Belt and Road Initiative, the lawmaker told the Jakarta Post in a statement Tuesday. Charles said Indonesia, alongside other Southeast Asian nations facing similar challenges from China, could review cooperation initiatives under negotiation, including provisions for the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership (RCEP) agreement. Indonesia can also invite countries in ASEAN to review trade and investment cooperation with China, he said. Experts have said that Beijing needs to prove its commitment to regional peace and stability by completing the Code of Conduct (COC) for the South China Sea, a set of guidelines meant to prevent conflict at sea.